How's it going, everyone? It's your boy Big Play Slate here, coming back with another live stream. We got a special guest on today. I think everyone in my community knows about you. So just introduce yourself to anyone that doesn't.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Steven Hyder. You might know me as Gate City Sports Channel or Stat Sheet Steve. I don't care what you call me, guys. My saying is just don't call me late for dinner. What's up, Big Play Slate, man? I'm glad to see you got a channel up and running. And you're doing some stuff, man. That's cool.
Yeah. I got the inspiration from you and Joey Shakes. Just how you guys did it. So I just said I might as well just start a channel. And this is where it led me to. So yeah. How's your day been, man?
Little hectic, man. So for y'all that don't know, we were actually supposed to go live at 4, but I decided to try to run to the post office and drop off my eBay and Amazon stuff. And then, I caught traffic. I had to send a Big Play Slay here a message saying, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, no, you're good.
You're
you're completely
but
fine.
That's why we're going at 7. But just for the most part, man, everything's been kind of smooth, man. Just kind of trying to keep up a little bit with the Eagles. See what's going on in camp, see who's emerging, see what I can find out. I stay on that Twitter just trying to find any kind of video clip I can, man.
Facts. But we got a special guest up in the chat too. What's up, Joe Castro? How you doing, man? I got one specific question for you that some people start off with. I'll start it off right here. How did you become an Eagles fan and why?
So I was born into being an Eagles fan, guys. So although everybody knows me kind of as Gate City Sports Channel, most people know that I live pretty close to North Carolina A&T. So obviously I live in North Carolina now. I actually grew up in Newcastle County, Newcastle, Delaware, more specifically the town of Newcastle. So about 5 miles or so outside of Wilmington, about 20 or so miles outside of Philly. My entire family, we grew up Eagle fans. It just really wasn't really a choice where I grew up, man. I mean, you really weren't going to be able to rock another jersey. It's not the way it works. So, I mean, I was kind of born into it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't imagine what would it be like if you weren't an Eagles fan. Like that's the team you got to rep. Everyone loves the Eagles. Like, the outsiders don't like the Eagles, but we as fans like the Eagles. That's a better way to put it. But now, how do you feel about the Zach Ertz situation,
man? It's complex because, for the longest time, we were trying to figure out creative ways to free up capital and, money for the salary cap, essentially, to get guys under contract. And then we ended up being able to wait out a guy like Steven Nelson and get him here for, I want to say, about $4 million, which, the market we heard at first was about $8 million, was about double that asking price. I even made a video saying that if it was under $6 million, I was in favor, but I was a little concerned that Steven Nelson might try to command number one corner money. And I was like, he's a good football player, but he's not a number one corner. So, I mean, Zach Ertz seemed for a long time to be kind of a thorn. Like, we can't really move forward. I still think there's issues with Zach Ertz being on the roster, and it's not his character. I know that he didn't give us all he had last year. I think anyone with eyes could see that. There was a few times that he clearly pulled up on a few passes where he wasn't trying to take hits for it. But I do think he'll conduct himself in a professional manner if he's on the team. My larger concern here is, we're trying to evaluate Dallas Goedert for a big-time extension. This guy wants big-time money. And having Zach Ertz still on the football team kind of complicates that because, if Zach Ertz starts playing above the level of Dallas Goedert, that really complicates the situation because, Dallas Goedert, although he's not a rook, he's certainly not a rookie. He's coming up on his contract year for his rookie contract. At the same time, he's had limited snaps. He's been limited since he's been here. Even though we ran a lot of 12-man, he's been limited because of Zach Ertz. He's been limited also because of injury, to be honest. Zach Ertz complicates that, to be quite honest. My gut instinct is that Zach Ertz is probably not going to be on this football team. But in saying that, I don't feel 100% confident either. Like, I could see Howie just being like Howie and saying, like, nah, man, like, nobody else is going to pay you this money. We're not going to get the value we want for you. You're still a good football player. And the compensatory pick we're going to receive for you is going to be a lot better than what teams are currently offering us to move you. So I could see both sides of the situation, but ultimately, I still think Zach Ertz probably won't be on this football team past the trade deadline. Maybe he sticks out for the beginning of the year. I think by the trade deadline, and I'm really thinking it's going to be sooner than that. I think it'll be for the start of the year. I think he's going to get moved.
Yeah. I really think a team is trying to get desperate for him. Like, I feel like the Eagles are waiting for a team to get desperate for him, and then they jump on it as soon as they can.
Yeah.
And I've heard of teams that will do that because it's happened in years past. When Sam Bradford, he wasn't like the highest market quarterback. We got him for a lot that we didn't expect. It may happen to Zach Ertz. I'm not saying it's like the same type of situation, but if a team gets desperate like the Eagles, then they may jump on something if they see it. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about that. But what's one breakout player on offense for you?
Ooh, breakout player on offense. Yeah. So I won't take the cop-out answer and say Jalen Hurts because I think that's a bit obvious.
Yeah.
I also won't go Devontae Smith because I do think the injury is going to complicate things a little bit, but he'll pick it up. It'll probably take a couple weeks, though. I'm going to say the player that has to be the breakout player, or I think there's a major problem. I think it comes down to three guys because this is a supporting cast. I think it has to be between Miles Sanders, Jalen Reagor, and Dallas Goedert. I think if those three guys can't put up numbers beside Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, we got a major problem with this offense. A lot of reconstruction's got to be done. I'm going to say it's going to be Jalen Reagor just because I feel like although Reagor still, with the death of a close friend in camp, and then he had the lower body injury that ended up causing him to it wasn't a physical, it was like a conditioning drill that he ended up failing on. So he's had some early offseason struggles. I do think that there's a competitive nature to that young man. I do think the skill set's there if he's properly utilized. And I think you're going to see that young man used in a way that gets him in space with an opportunity to pick up a lot of yak. So I think Reagor is going to have a role because I think teams are going to have to focus on Dallas Goedert. They're going to have to focus on Devontae Smith, which is going to give Reagor some one-on-one opportunities. Now, I can tell you the person I'm excited about from camp is Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins is having an incredible camp. I don't know how much he's going to crack the rotation in the season. I have to see that before I project him to that level. But really good camp from Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins, to me, he's played himself onto the active 53-man roster for the second year in a row. So,
yeah, I really think it will be Fulgham. Fulgham or Reagor. I just want to see if Goddard, Sanders, or Reagor break out this year. Because as you said, if they don't break out this year, then they or put up numbers that they're supposed to, then we have problems. But I just think they need to break out for the specific reason. Because there's going to be players next year that are going to break out this year, and the Eagles are going to always be rumored to get those players next year's draft. So they always have to stay active and stay just good. They have to keep their body maintained because you don't want another player to take your job. And that's what Sirianni's been preaching the last month or so, ever since he got in Philadelphia. Yeah, but what's one on defense for you?
So there are two names in particular. If I'm looking at the long shots, right, not looking at the Anthony Harris's and obviously the Darius Slays, our defensive linemen. I mean, we go Josh Sweat, but that's a fan favorite pick. I'll give people a read of what I'm seeing from the secondary, and these are role players. So I see these guys breaking out in terms of the support status of the team and being those competent corners. Zach McPherson and Josiah Scott are having really, really good camps. Those two guys in reserve roles, they're aggressive. They're very aggressive at playing the ball. Those two guys could be these guys that break into the games and all of a sudden, holy crap, man, this guy's only been on the field for 10 snaps and he's already got a pick. He's already got a pass breakup. Those two guys play with a reckless abandonment to him that's dangerous. But, man, it does translate at times to some pretty big plays. Yeah. Those two guys in particular I've been watching in camp, and I'm like, okay, these two guys, man, there's something there. I see what the staff was looking at. They're not the biggest guys in the world. They're not your prototypical guys that we were thinking about with Gannon, but they're ball hawks. They go for the ball. That's a big thing with these two guys. And that's a pretty nice surprise. I thought Davion Taylor was getting there. He was having a really good early camp, but now he's a little banged up and he's dealing with some little bit of a nagging injury himself. So I don't know how that's going to affect Davion Taylor. The linebacker position in general, I think, is a little harder to project. I think, Wilson's probably going to be the guy that's going to be the more consistent, relied upon player, although Wilson's not very good at run support, to be quite honest. So, we'll see how the linebackers play, man, because I was shocked at what I was seeing from camp. Mind you, pads ain't on. This isn't full pads went on yesterday, but isn't full contact tackle to the ground yet. So I don't know how much we can evaluate the linebackers, but early camp in coverage, we saw these guys showing off coverage skills. Like, Wilson was showing off good coverage skills. Davion Taylor was showing his athletic ability. Like, we were seeing some guys really make some plays out there from the linebacker position. So, but me, I'm going to take my money to the secondary and say Josiah Scott, Zach McPherson, and those reserve roles, I think they're going to be quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really think Scott has a chance to beat out Maddox, if I'm being honest, because I want to say McPherson is the slot corner going into the season because of the camp, but I need to see more. I want to see more because I love what he's doing in training camp so far, but I feel like Maddox and Scott have the upper leverage against him because they have more experience, and those are the positions they thrive in. But I feel like McPherson, he's having a good camp, but that's just one camp. You got to show me more. And I love McPherson. Yeah, he's amazing, but I got to see more before I really can judge you. But how do you feel about the receivers this year?
A lot of unknown. Still a lot of unknown, right? I mean, look, Devontae Smith, if you're just judging this young man and you're not taking a look at the physical measurements, if you're judging by the way he runs routes, the way he's beating man pressed, those little things like that, look, this guy was incredibly productive in college. I mean, it was phenomenal what he did. I mean, first wide receiver to win the Heisman since Desmond Howard. It's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous accomplishment to bring into your NFL career. Now, I will say this. Heisman trophies don't equate to excellent play in the NFL. It really means nothing, honestly. With that said, though, this guy's very accomplished. He's clearly going to be the thing that either makes this receiving core a complete receiving core or highlights the bigger disaster of it all. Past him, you got a lot of question marks. Travis Fulgham in short spurts and windows can show that he's a really good wide receiver. There's not a lot of consistency there. We saw that he struggled when Alshon Jeffrey came back. He struggled to keep his head in the game. More importantly, he struggled to keep his head in practices, which resulted in him getting a reduction in reps in games. So, I mean, that's a big unknown to me. Jalen Reagor. I think Jalen Reagor has all the talent in the world. But I think that some guys have a competitive edge and you love it. And some guys have a competitive edge to the point of madness, where it's taking them to a level of madness. Like they can't see straight. They can't think straight. And I think when you're that competitive, sometimes what ends up happening is when you make an error or somebody makes a play on you, the frustration because you're so uber competitive and you're not thinking rationally can compound. And it can get worse and it can get worse and it can get worse. And I feel like that's a little bit what's going on with Jalen Reagor, that someone needs to pull back those emotions a little bit with him and get him to think a little bit more clear-headed in terms of the football game. Last year we had Jason Avant came on staff. I made a video last offseason where I said that maybe it's time for the Philadelphia Eagles to forgive and welcome Terrell Owens back, and not even just the Eagles, the NFL in general. Terrell Owens, is he a bit of a head case? Absolutely. Does he understand what it's like to be a head case and be productive on the field? Absolutely. I think that Terrell Owens could actually offer something to an NFL organization. Now, look, he's same thing you dealt with in his playing career. He's got to be a team guy. I don't know if that's him, but I'd give him the opportunity because there's very few people who are going to understand play on the outside the way that Terrell Owens does. I think a guy like that could actually help. And it doesn't even have to be with a position with the team. It could just be if he starts his own private coaching thing. They're private coaches. I think he can help guys that are going through those emotional issues. I think he knows what's on both sides of the emotional issue. He knows what it's like to lose control and it blow up in your face. Yeah. And he knows how to tell people hey, I'm just going to tell you a precautionary tale that's myself. You've got to keep this under control or else you're going to be in your front driveway doing sit-ups for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, I definitely think the receiving core has a lot of coaches around it. You got Kevin. I looked at one drill, Slay, and there was Kevin Patullo out there working with one group of receivers. Nick Sirianni was working with Rager, and then Aaron Moorhead had I think Hightower or somebody off to the side working with him. Sorry, it's dinner. Working with him. So I mean, that's 3 guys right there working with receivers. Like, we're investing a whole lot into the position.
Yeah.
Between draft picks, you got a 2nd-round pick and 2 first-round picks on this roster.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's hard to say it's going to pay off yet. I don't know that it's going to be what we want, but I'm hoping. Like, I can't tell until we get a common opponent in here. If we get a common opponent in here like the Jets or the Patriots during that week of practice, the skirmishes with them and the receivers start producing, then we know that, okay, like, hey, man, the coaching's really working. That's the hard thing. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. Do you think the Eagles should sign a veteran receiver?
Yeah, with the freed up capital we have, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think it's definitely going to bump one of the younger guys out, or it's going to bump a Greg Ward Jr. out. But I definitely think that, with Smith, you don't want to rush back an MCL. I don't know if it's a grade 1 or a grade 2. I'm going to assume, judging from the fact that he was right back on the field watching his teammates, like, I don't, just a few minutes later after going back and having it evaluated, that it's probably a grade 1. But I'm not a doctor, guys. I don't, I know what an MRI is. I don't know how to work it. You know what I mean? But when you deal with something like that, you have to be careful, because it doesn't take much to re-aggravate that type of injury. You don't want to rush a guy like that back. I'd rather him have to be slow approached and work his way back in than to be rushed in here, have a top 10 pick, end up having something that could take 18 months to recover back from, from a knee injury. Like, you just got to be careful with that. And I think a veteran wide receiver, if you get a guy that's proven he can play football and you can rely upon, immediately you're not overly, you're not worried about rushing somebody back too soon, right? We're not worried about a Jalen Reagor situation like last year where we rushed that young man back entirely too soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I really do think we should sign a veteran receiver, but I'm just hesitant on doing it because, the Eagles, if they get a guy that's older, that'll take more of the playing time for the younger guys, and that's not what I want. But if they think they're in their heads that it'll help the younger guys develop, then I'll do it. I just don't want playing time taken away from the younger guys. That's the only thing I don't want. Because I want them to develop successfully. That's all I want. I just don't want another Alshon Jeffrey. That's basically what I don't want.
Yeah. As long as I think it depends upon the contract. At this point in the offseason, unless you trade. If you trade for a guy, I think it's a different story. But if you're signing a guy at this point, you're not going to have to pay them too much money to come in. So I don't think you would have the same financial commitment that you had to Alshon Jeffrey, forcing you to try to, make it look like this guy's, is much better and it's just been injuries and all that. At the same time, though, it's hard. You got to evaluate a quarterback. And if you can't get this young man adequate play on the outside at receiver, I think it's a really unfair, thing to try to evaluate him like this. I mean, I just think it would be ridiculous to try to evaluate a quarterback where, legitimately you might have not one guy on this roster that is a legit, wide receiver that a team needs a game plan for. Like that could be an issue. And I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that if it turns out to be the case, I still think that they'll slow approach it. Slay, I think what you're going to see is they'll try to give JJ and Rager and all these guys, an opportunity to fill in and prove that they can play Fulgham. And then if they feel like those guys are not getting the job done, that's when I think you'll see the veteran come in.
Yeah. Now, I think it will be like a Fitzgerald type of veteran. I don't know if he's on the market. I would take him if I'm being honest, because he's coming in to develop these receivers, but also to teach them. That's something the Eagles could use. But at the same time, you're just looking at how they're going to use him. instead of the younger receivers. I don't want him to take most of the snaps. I want him to come in, take some snaps, do the little things and get his money. And also, develop these receivers and teach them something. That's something you need in a receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hoping we could get that with, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, and never really happened. And, that's unfortunate, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a tough situation the Eagles find themselves in at wide receiver. Like, camp did not start off the way we would have wanted it to start off, with as many injuries and guys in and out of. I mean, like, think about it. Quez Watkins had an administrative error with his physical, and he missed the start of camp, right? Jalen Reagor ends up having a death to a friend that was very close to him that messed him up a little bit mentally. Then he had a lower body injury that caused him to fail a conditioning test that messed everything up, right? Then you get we go out and we actually signed a special teams role player guy from the Jags, that Walker, whatever that young man's name was, and getting injured recently. And he was starting to have a pretty good camp. And then Devontae Smith goes, it's like, oh man, like, we can't catch a break. We just cannot catch a break with this position. Like, even when we're trying to evaluate guys, we can't even get the evaluations really in,
Yeah.
Because they just keep going down.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back, Trayvon Grimes goes all the way back to Trayvon Grimes. Trayvon Grimes got hurt long before we even started training camp, and then was, an injury settlement waiver.
Like, it happened last year with Joe Osman. Like, before the training camp even begun or anything begun, it was like a month prior, he got injured, which was very crazy. And then you look at June, I think, where like mid-June, Brandon Brooks got injured, so we can't really catch a break. So that's something we always have to look out for, injuries. That's just something in our heads as Eagles fans.
And it's weird because I don't know why. I can't explain it because, people ask all the time, like, why do you think these injuries are occurring? And to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know if it, I don't know if that's something to do with the practice routines we had. I mean, my guess is it's a combination of several things, from evaluation over the roster and taking risk on older players. But I think it also had to do with practice habits. I think it was pretty systemic. I think it was a really big systemic issue within the organization. But man, I sure hope we catch some sunshine here soon.
Yeah, I really think it's conditioning, and some of the coaches force. Well, I don't think it's the coaches. I feel like it's the medical staff telling the Eagles coaching staff and Howie Roseman that this player can't play. But I feel like they don't listen to it and they just force these players to play. I feel like some of that is because of Roseman and the Eagles coaching staff. That's how I'm basically looking at it, and the conditioning and stuff. That also very well worries me.
Yeah,
but yeah, you can go.
No, I'm saying it's a tough one because I think it's a combination of things. I mean, to some extent, the scouting department has made pretty bad evaluations. I mean, it's not to say these guys can't play, but there were better players on the board that ultimately weren't giving higher draftable grades than the guys they selected. On the other hand, it has to do to some extent a lack of player development. I mean, Doug's got to, next time he takes a job, he's got to own up to that I won a Super Bowl. I have what it takes to win Super Bowls. But if I'm being honest, I didn't always coach my coaches. In return, my coaches didn't always coach the players. We had a problem with player development. I mean,
Yeah, well, I just want to give a real quick shout out to Sora and Papa Sora and Uncle C.33. What's up, y'all? And if you have any questions in the chat, if Steve's up to it, you can just ask him the questions, and I'll put them up there, and he can answer them for you guys. But how do you feel about Sanders this year going into the season, and do you think he can be a Pro Bowler?
Sanders is a mixed bag of I don't know what to think, to be honest. Listen, the guy had three plays of over like 70 yards last year. I mean, I did a video and I was going through like 20 some years of history, and he's outperformed 20 some years of history in a single season. On the other hand, he's very much a 1 yard, 2 yards, lose 3 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, break a 15-yarder. You kind of have to live with that when it comes to Sanders. There are a couple things I saw that bothered me, and I tried to explain it. I was looking at 8-man boxes.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders is bottom third in the league versus 8-man boxes. You might say, well, that's not a bad thing. You don't want the defense to be +1 on you in the running game. I hear you, but I think the counter argument is that people don't respect us enough to be +1 in the running game. And it's so many things to consider there, because that has to do with play calling, that has to do with offensive line play, and it has to do with the running back. It has to do with, all those things combined. And, he's a guy that I think is better than when the rankings came out and they had him, what they rank him, like 26 or 27? It was something ridiculous like that.
It was 27.
Yeah, something ridiculous. I was like, okay, I don't agree with this. Like,
yeah.
Do I have him top 12? No. Do I have him between that top 20 range? Sure. I got him between, I'd say 16 and 20. I think you can make an argument as high as 16. I think right around 20 is about where I think most people would rank him. I just couldn't believe that, some of the ratings I've seen is like 27. Like that's come on, man. Like, who's making these critiques?
It's I get where he's coming from, but I also don't, because he took some players that have 1 year under their belts. Let's say, for instance, Cam Akers. I would argue that I would make a case for Cam Akers, but no, I'm taking Sanders over Akers, not only because of the experience, because what Sanders has accomplished in the last 2 seasons. But Sanders, he can be inconsistent at times. He can have one really good game, and then the next game it's iffy.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago we were hyped. We thought that Miles Sanders could be, he could be working his way towards a top 15, top 16. I say top 16 because that means upper half of the league type running back. I mean, he seemed to be on pace for that after his rookie season. And then, last year had some ups, it had some downs. It was a crazy off season that's hard to judge players on. A really ineffective offense. I don't think he's as bad as people think. I just don't think he's that bad, man. I just think that last year I think things just got out of.
Yeah. Now, I know you're a big Antonio Gibson guy. Do you take Gibson or Sanders right now? Just heading into the season.
I love Antonio Gibson. I would still take Miles Sanders. I think most people probably say it's a bit of a push. We don't know much about Antonio Gibson other than the fact that he had a couple of really big games against Dallas. But I think he has all the tools to be a featured back in the league. I was pretty high on him coming out of college. I was definitely pounding the tables. I thought that he would be a great compliment to Miles Sanders, and definitely a guy that you really don't have to use as a running back. I saw him more as an H-back, the old school Trey Burton type role is what I saw him more as. I think, you pick your poison there. I mean, the one thing that Gibson gives you is consistency catching the football. Miles Sanders has shown the ability to do it, but he hasn't been consistent doing it. So I can understand people who have Gibson above Sanders. I get it. But me personally, Sanders is ripping off 70-yard plays and stuff. You know what I mean? It's I'd rather work with consistency. Like, I can get this guy to become consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something I want to see more from Sanders. Mm-hmm. I'm taking Sanders over Gibson going into the season because as good as Gibson was last year, Sanders has 2 years under his belt, and he's just accomplished more. As much as I love Gibson, as much as you love Gibson and I do, we can't take that over a guy that has 2 seasons accomplished in Sanders. But I will give Sanders his props. He is a very agile running back. He finds the little holes. He can break away easily if he wants to. But at times he's inconsistent. That's the only thing I don't like about him. He has a good game here, and then the next game, let's say Seattle, for instance, last year, he didn't do good. Some of that is because Seattle's rush defense is 4th. But he has to stay consistent, and that's one thing I want to see from him this season.
Yeah. I'm hoping, because I think he's a key component to how the offense is going to work. I think if Miles Sanders is top half of the league, running back, top 16, I got a feeling this offense is going to be pretty good. I'm excited to see what the Eagles do, because I think it's going to be a really interesting decision on what they do at running back. ton because the pads aren't on, so it's really hard to, the pads were only on yesterday, I should say, but we don't have tackling to the ground, so you can't really judge the running backs the same way. But I've heard that Jason Huntley has made some calls that got Nick Sirianni fired up, getting in his face, but he's also broke off a few runs. So that's, Huntley seems to be kind of not going away quietly. Gainwell's a guy that I think has a ton of potential, and I'd like to see get a few snaps this year. But the other guys that like Jordan, if you watch the drills where they're trying to strip the ball, and you just watch Jordan Howard, like Jordan Howard's just basically laughing at them, like, "Come on, man, you ain't getting this ball from me." Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's the only dude that's built like that, where he's just like, "It's not happening, Chief."
Yeah. He's just strong. He's just on another level when it comes to running backs. Like, if you want a third down back, that's your guy. Like, if you want a guy that's just a bruiser, Jordan Howard's your answer. But I will say one thing about Sanders. If he doesn't stay healthy this season, I will say Kenneth Gainwell honestly has a chance to take his job. I really will say that. Like, I'm not even joking when I say that. Gainwell can definitely take his job. If Sanders doesn't stay healthy. Now, people will say that you need to see something from Gainwell on the field. Now, I do agree with that, but, health is a major concern for Sanders. And he's only, 24, 25? He's young. So if that's a problem for a younger cat, then it's not going to look good for him in the future.
And I have observed something that I have not put in any of my videos yet. And I haven't mentioned it to anyone yet. So I'll break it on your channel first for you. What I have noticed, and I don't know if anyone's been keeping track of this, Nick Sirianni has been running some strange sets. Some people were calling it 21. They were calling it 2-back sets, but I think it depends on how you classify the players. But he's been taking some of these running backs that are elusive. So your Huntleys, your Killins, right? Your Gainwells. And in order to get more explosion out of the slot, he's been putting them in the slot. So, I mean, that's something I haven't really broke on any of my videos yet. It's something I haven't really said until right now. But I have noticed that. I've just been waiting to really – I want to see it in a preseason game so that way I can point it out and show everybody, like, hey, man, he's cooking something up here. He's wanting something that the receivers are not giving him. And I knew something was up the minute I saw Killins working with the wide receivers on day one of camp. I was like, okay, that's not something we heard discussed before. And all of a sudden, Killins is out there taking reps with the receivers. So I think something's going on there, man. I definitely think that Sirianni is going to find ways to get explosive plays from his slot receivers, whether it's through the wide receivers or it's taking one of these running backs and putting them in the slot.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really interesting conversation when it comes to the cut down of the roster and who might get kept on. You might go 4 or 5 running backs and only 5 receivers if you don't feel like any of these guys are giving you explosion out of the slot. Because if you're not getting explosion out of the slot and you got to go to your running backs to get it, you're probably going to go heavy at running back.
Yeah.
So I mean, or you're going to reclassify a position. One of these running backs are going to be dubbed, a wide receiver. Which, by the way, there's a really good wide receiver in Kansas City that was a collegiate running back, Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
Yes. So I mean,
yeah, that explains a lot. We have Bobby in here. How are you doing? Beantown Breakdown. Go subscribe to him. Cool guy. But I want to get back to a comment that someone said. All right, how do you feel about this comparison? Miles Sanders is respectfully a poor man's Barry Sanders.
Poor man. That's one way of saying it. I'd say he's the 5 and dime shopping thrift, man. Yeah, kind of hard to compare him to Barry Sanders, man. I get what you're saying, the elusiveness. Sure. I mean, he's got a little shake. He's got a little shake to him. There's no doubt about it. I see him more as a poor man's, LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy was really, I see him more as a poor man's LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. That's fair. I think he's like really a guy that's agile. He uses his agility to his strength. His 40 time, it says 4.51 or something when he did the 40-yard dash. I think his game speed is much better than what it says on the 40-yard dash. in his 40 time. Like he's really fast, like during a game. As soon as he gets through the hole, then he's gone. You saw in the Saints game, as soon as he had that one little hole, he's bursting out and he's out. Yeah, and that's something you gotta look out for, and all defenses are looking out for that when they play us.
So I would tell people, I will always take short shuttle and L drill over 40-yard dash. Give me lateral speed.
Yeah, definitely. Some people on this team don't have like lateral speed. I'm not going to mention them. Rager, the Rager has. That's the one I'm talking about. Rager lateral speed, it's iffy at times, but Sanders, it's okay. That's something you got to pay attention to because speed really isn't everything. But when it comes to the game, it's much different than the 40-yard dash.
I think Rager let. My understanding is that Rager let whoever he hired to prep him for the combine, his rookie season, he let them get in his head a little bit, and they ended up adding mass to him, which messed him up at the combine. You know, he ran slow. He just wasn't the lateral athlete that people thought he was going to be. Didn't match his film at all. Like his film showed a guy that's, man, you get that guy in open space and good luck. And then he admitted, you know, he wasn't in the same shape he had been in the past. And that's why I'm really excited to see like a full off season. You know, it's a shame that he already started off with a lower body injury. And I'm hoping that this coaching staff recognizes that, you know what, you got to get these guys fully healthy, or else using these short, explosive guys isn't going to work if they're not fully healthy. It's just not going to do you any good. But yeah, I mean, the common comparison was Deshaun Jackson in college. And I get why people say that. I understand why people are comparing him to D-Jack, but I don't think that's the greatest comparison. I think he's a little bit more similar to Steve Smith, formerly of the Panthers and the Ravens.
That's a really good comparison. Yeah. That's a really good comparison. And that's something I look back at now when people say he was like that speed threat. I look back at it now, and he's not really like he's good. He's explosive at times, but he's not like really the fastest guy. Like he can beat you down the field. That's evident, but I feel like he's more of like that, like smaller, stronger, like fast, like sort of explosive type of receiver. It's like a buffer Jeremy Maclin.
He's got an incredible vertical. I mean, Rager can really get in the air, and he's got a heck of a double move. His double move is among some of the best. Coming out of college, he had one of the best double moves in the league. The only person I really put him ahead of in terms of selling the route down the field with double moves and stuff like that, that was Justin Jefferson, which was unfortunate how that all worked out. But he was the only other person I said that, when you really broke down their ability to do double moves and things like that, Justin Jefferson I thought was by far the greatest, because if he got a corner that used their eyes, so if their corners was fixating on the upper half of Justin Jefferson, he would manipulate them. And I noticed that on his film at LSU that, wow, he is a slot guy, but he's really, really good at beating undisciplined corners. If they get undisciplined in technique and they start watching his upper half, scared he's going to get by them, he was just, it was like a master class on how you finish somebody. And I did 2 videos. Justin Jefferson was the only player, and I was a Rager guy from the jump. Justin Jefferson was the only player, the only recruit in 2020's draft that I made 2 videos about, because some people like to remember things differently than what they were stating originally. There were a lot of people who were not in favor of Justin Jefferson, to be quite honest. And I made a second video.
That's all we heard. He can play the outside.
And I made a video saying, I don't know if he can play the outside or not. I don't know. But what I do know is I know good route running. And this guy is among some of the best guys I've ever broke down film on. And I made 2 videos just trying to display it. And I was like, he was sitting there. I thought the Eagles were going to draft him. And then, Mike said they drafted Rager. And Mike knew I was a huge Rager guy. So I thought he was messing with me. And then come to find out, I was like, ooh, like, I love Rager. I don't know why. That probably would not have been my pick. And I'm a big Rager guy.
Yeah. I really thought he was going to go in like the 2nd round. If I'm being honest, I thought he was going to go early 2nd round. That's where I originally marked him at. I could have seen, I could have understood or like a late 1st round pick. I could have understood that, but I feel like Jefferson was more of the definite right there, especially for a team that needs talented receivers, and Jefferson fit that mold last year. I want to get to Bobby's question real quick. He says, question for you both. What's your confidence level with Hurts, and can he lead the Eagles to the playoffs? You want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. That's a tough question, man, because there's not enough on him right yet. I can tell you where his development stands. He's a guy that he throws a really nice, pretty outside back shoulder pass.
Fade ball.
I think that
fade ball's really good. Like, I really like the fade ball.
He's very, very accurate to the outside. He struggles like most rookie quarterbacks do between the hashes to throw the football, where it gets a little more congested. I have a video coming up where I'm going to break down Nick Sirianni's quote about his footwork, but his timing can be off at times. And what that means is, if you're in a 3-step hitch drop, when you hitch, you've got to anticipate where the receiver's going. The ball has to come out of your hand. So you can't second time because the receiver hasn't gotten into the break. And then you're throwing the ball and it ends up getting into the dirt or behind him, or, stuff like that. It was kind of going on where he's got to make improvements there. He definitely needs to play on what they call playing on time, which is like, okay, you got a blitz coming at you. The linebackers are coming hot. The vacated zone is going to be right over those linebackers. It's just tough because Doug Peterson instructed him, if the line breaks down, get out of there and get rid of the ball. That was a Doug Peterson quote. That's what Merrill Reese said Doug Peterson told Jalen Hurts. So with that knowledge, it's kind of hard to say, whereas, I can only say what the film says, but I don't know what may have caused some of the effects on film. That's the problem. Like, a coach telling you that, I mean, it's kind of hard to then go back and say, like, hey, man, like, you're not hitting vacated zones when they're wide open. Well, Coach instructed me when the line breaks down to get out of there and get rid of the football. He's got to be better at those things, man. The timing stuff, those timing routes, understanding how to play on time, hitting those vacated zones. It's things like that he's got to get better at. Yeah. Do I think he can lead the Eagles to the playoffs? I think it just means I think define the time frame, and I think I'd have a better answer for that. But I think it's a little less likely this year, but it's not impossible. But look, McNabb got in for a couple of games his rookie year, and then basically his sophomore season, he led the Eagles to the playoffs, and this was a guy that was highly flawed as a quarterback at the time. He was not this was not Tom Brady in his prime throwing passes. This was a guy that was scrambling for his life at times, extending plays, finding guys. I mean, and then McNabb slowly but surely developed into, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, and I know there's guys that go back to a much later date of football, but in my time frame, he was the most accomplished Eagles quarterback. I mean, 5 NFC championships and a Super Bowl.
Yes.
He was certainly the most accomplished one. I mean, I'm a huge Randall Cunningham guy. That's the era I came up in.
Cunningham is a gunslinger. If you look back at his tape, you can understand that dude can really throw an accurate pass. Like, just go look. He was amazing back in the day.
But you look at that. I mean, I was alive when Jaworski was there, but I was entirely too young to really know the Jaworski era. But it contained a Super Bowl appearance. So I understand people saying, like, no, you're wrong, Jaworski was the greatest. I can only speak from my experience in time, guys. I mean, I didn't get to see Jaworski really play, guys. I mean, you got to figure, I think what Cunningham take over from, like 86, 87 guys. I mean, I was like 3 or 4. So, I mean, you know what I mean? I was a little too young to really, you know what I mean? To really have witnessed any of that, guys. I came up during the Cunningham era, and then, yes, I was there for the craziness of the Jim McMahon coming in for a couple of games replacing Cunningham, and then the whole Rodney Pete debacle to Bobby Hoying and Ty Detmer and all those guys coming in. I mean, I definitely came up in that 90s era, and then we finally got McNabb and Reed here, and we actually turned this organization around into a winning organization. So, I mean, to me, McNabb is kind of the height of it, and I see similarity Hurts' game to McNabb. I'm not saying they're one for one. They're not exactly the same player, but there are similarities there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will say, If McNabb had more like receivers around him other than T.O., they put more like receivers around him, I really think he would have been better. Like I feel like if you put like more receivers around him, he would have gone further. He had five NFC championships under his belt. So imagine what he could have done if he had more playmakers to throw the ball to, other than T.O. Avant was good, Freddie Mitchell we had. That's good and all, but you need better playmakers than that. And what to answer Bobby's question, my confidence level on Hurts, Steve said it best. I really think he is a guy that needs to get better with the timing. Last year on film, I saw a lot of times where he didn't see the first read, which was wide open. At times he took the ball and ran with it. That's something you got to look at with Hurts. He's a guy that always is a guy that just looks to run and not look the first read. That's something he has to account for himself on, because you have to do that as a quarterback. You always got to look at your first read.
And I love the coaching staff around him right now. Like Shane Steichen is the offensive coordinator working with Herbert last year as an OC. I think that's a good thing, personally. Then I look at a guy like Brady coming in here and having the opportunity to be the quarterback coach. And, he worked with a ton of guys. I mean, he worked with De'Aaron King, who's now at Miami, but he worked with him when he was at Houston. He did work with Dak Prescott. I mean, Kyle Trask last year he worked with. So, I mean, look, I think we have, the offense that's going to make some sense. It's going to be a quick processing offense. We got a coordinator that I think is going to support the quarterback. And I think we have a quarterback coach who knows the young man since he was a child and, has worked with guys with similar issues before to get them, playing, Dak Prescott is a professional, Derek King still to be determined. Kyle Trask is at least having a cup of coffee in the NFL right now. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know if Trask is going to hang on or anything, guys. He's a rookie, but, at least he got a cup of coffee here. So, Brady's done some good things, man.
Definitely. Of course, Bobby loves the first game of the Eagles Patriots. That's the one they won. Of course, he's going to be happy about that one. It's a good game for him.
Yeah.
Even though it really wasn't a good game on paper, I don't even think Brady did good in that game. Yeah, he did okay. That was more of the defense. And McNabb he didn't go to he went to T.O. as many times as he could, but I wish they fed him the ball the entire game because he was catching everything. But I really
T.O. was on a mission that game. That was
nuts. He had like 9 catches for 84 yards. I don't remember. He went nuts in that game, just to say the least. But yeah, I think Hurts has a potential to be a good quarterback. Still yet to be determined. 4 games is just a small sample size for me to like give you a good definition of what he is as a quarterback. I do need to see more because I think he has tremendous potential. He showed what he can do last year, but that can't really determine a quarterback. I want to see more. I love Hurts. I love his swagger. I love the confidence. He's a quiet guy. He's not really one to chirp at other people in a game or something. He's quiet. He has that winner's mentality, and I love that about him. But, he has to work on his accuracy. The fade ball's there. We understand that. Deep ball could improve. Just needs a little more, deep, actual deep ball. Like if it's a quarterback like Mahomes or Rodgers, they're putting the ball in the money. Hurts last year on film, I saw at times where if he threw a deep ball, he just a little underthrew the receiver. So he has to accurately pass the ball better this year. Do I think he'll lead us to the playoffs? That's a hard one. I can't say it. Our division is very, our division is very wide open, but I can't determine that yet. Need to see
That's a tough question just because I don't know how good the team is around them yet. You know what I mean? Like I think we have pieces that could be quite good, but they haven't really proven it yet. I mean, Goddard could be really good. Miles could be really good. Rager has the potential to be good. Devontae Smith has the potential to be good. Fulgham, like those guys have the potential to be good, but you know what I mean? Like they could also be bad. It's hard to say, man, because we just haven't seen any of these guys do it. And as much as I would love to think that Jalen Hurts could just put this team on his back and carry us across the goal line, it's tough to do.
Yeah,
it's tough to do, man. I mean,
it's something you can't put unrealistic expectations on him because he only played 4 games. So we got to see more from him. He definitely has potential. We saw that last year, but it's hard to determine a quarterback that only played 4 games. I saw what he did at Oklahoma. I was impressed, but I just didn't like the division he played in. That's the only thing I don't like. Yeah.
What do you think about this offensive line so far?
I like it. I will say I like it because this year, we have a good starting cast. It's basically the same starting cast that won us the Super Bowl, minus Mailata. I do like it, and I love that we have depth at the position. It's a very unique, just as a bunch, it's very unique. It's a good starting cast, good depth. I love that, that they have that. Injuries concern me on the offensive line, but they have potential, especially the depth like Driscoll, say Malu, Jurega, Dickerson, very, very young players. And I do think Dickerson can start, not at center, but left guard, where say Malu plays if the injury doesn't happen again. If injuries happen to say Malu again, I could see Dickerson taking that spot. That's how I feel about that. But another question from Bobby. He says, "How do you think the Eagles' defense will be this year?" And he also says, "I know it's a young group in the secondary." How do you feel about
that? So it was set to be a young group, but they got significantly older. So you got guys like Darius Slay. You got guys like Anthony. Why am I slipping here? Anthony Harris, and then you got Rodney McLeod. All those guys are right around 30 or older. Then we got Steven Nelson, who's he's not over the hill, but he's definitely not a rook. And then we got guys that we don't. We got Avonte Maddox, who's coming up on a contract year. He's been in the league for a while, but he's been played all over the place, so he hasn't really had a chance to settle in at an alignment like a nickelback, basically, or a safety. He's been moved around from nickel to safety to outside corner. So we'll have to see how he settles in. And then we have the young guys. Michael Jacquet. I would say Michael Jacquet, Josiah Scott, and Zach McPherson are the young guys that don't have a ton of experience. But I think those guys are having good camps, actually. I mean, it doesn't mean much. We're only talking camp. But they're having a good camp so far. Then I think the wrench in the system could be Craig James. Craig James is an exceptional special teams player, and if he starts to play up to the level of these guys defensively, he probably makes the team. So if he can play up to the level of a Jacquet, he can play up or exceed the level of Josiah Scott or Jacquet, he's probably going to make it over those guys.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I say our secondary is. The starters are pretty easy. On the outside, you got Slay, and then on the other side there, you got Steven Nelson.
Yeah.
Our safeties are going to be Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod, assuming Rodney McLeod's healthy. Then you get into the young core that kind of comes up behind them. You got our nickel is Avonte Maddox, who at least has some time in the league. And then past that, you get into the instability stuff, right? You get into the Kevon Wiles as your third safety and Epps. Those guys are a little less experienced than some of the other guys. Then you get into like Josiah Scott and Zach McPherson and the guys like that, Michael Jacquet. So front line, the starters, if everything's healthy and everything's okay, I feel comfortable. The reserve guys are going to play those reserve roles. It's kind of a to be determined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the linebacking core, I will say that's the most weakest position on the team because we have depth everywhere. So that position, I don't know if I want to trust it, but it's cool. I like what we're doing there. It's hard to trust it though. That's the only thing that concerns me. There's a lot of just untrustability, if that's a word. But I want to get to this comment right here. He says, I understand the dark cloud and uncertainty around Deshaun Watson right now. And with that said, would you trade Hurts, and picks to obtain them?
Oh, not until I know more. Those are here's the thing. No criminal, as far as I know, and guys, I'm only here to my own knowledge, and I don't really follow it. No criminal charges have been levied against them, as far as I know so far. It's all been civil suits and civil matters. If that wasn't in the way, would I prefer Deshaun Watson? Absolutely. I was a big Deshaun Watson fan coming out of college. I thought he was going to be good. With everything going on, I think your better play is just to play Hurts this season and give Hurts the opportunity and just see if you got something in Hurts. And then if you don't feel secure, you still feel like you're in the same exact place again where you don't have answers about who your quarterback is. Hopefully at this point, if all the stuff around Deshaun Watson is still going on, hopefully you've had enough time to at least vet it. You've had enough time to investigate it yourself, vet the situation, feel confident in what your knowledge is over the situation, and then pursue the player. I don't think I'd get involved in that situation right now as it stands, but to be honest, I don't know crap about the situation other than like 1,000,001 masseuses accused them of inappropriate conduct. I don't understand how many masseuses people have. I mean, I don't. To begin with, it's never made sense.
It's like a lot for Watson right now. I can tell you that much. Yeah, but I wouldn't be certain with that. I know the Eagles have said they're monitoring the situation already. There's already been a report already that said the Eagles are monitoring the situation. I agree with that. I definitely do think they should monitor the situation. Do I think they should get him? No. Absolutely not. You just saw that Carson Wentz got injured. Now what do? We don't get a first round pick in attached to that trade. We don't get a first round pick now. So it's only 2 first round picks that we have right now. And then a second, which you got with Wentz. But 2 firsts and a second. That I don't even think that can get Deshaun Watson, if I'm just being honest. He says, Jock Talk says, "Hey, City, how are you?" He's doing great. He already said that. But how do you feel about Fletcher Cox, and do you think the Eagles should trade him?
Another sticky situation.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see what Fletch can do in this defense because I feel like Jonathan Gannon and Tracy Rock are going to do more to get him singled up on one-on-one matchups. I don't think they're just going to ask him to play the right or left defensive tackle position and just stay in that 3 technique and never move him. I think they're going to play a little bit of Where's Waldo. They're going to move him all around the line, I think, to get those one-on-one matchups, to make it harder for defenses just to key in on him like that.
Yeah.
With that said, he has an out in his contract following this year. So basically meaning, guys, is that the dead money would be lower in his contract following this year than his actual cap number would be. So you get a cap savings. So there is a potential out inside of his contract following this year. That's tough, man. You're talking about a marquee player that, because of injury, because of things going on, hasn't quite been the player we've seen him, be in the past. And he's never really been a double-digit sack guy. He's always flirted right around that, but never quite crossed it really. I got to see, man. I mean, if this guy puts up double-digit sacks, it's only, 31? Yeah. I might give him. I might let him stay around for another couple of years if he's just that good in this system. But if he's not that good in this system, there is an out in this contract.
Yeah, definitely. If he's putting up the same numbers that he did in the system, I would definitely be looking to trade him. Because he should be a 10-sack guy. And he's always been in the same discussion as Aaron Donald. Is he as good as him? Absolutely not. But, I think he should be putting up 10 sacks. Do I think they should trade him? It's very iffy. You can say they should because of the age and the injuries and the market for defensive tackles and how much he's getting paid right now. I understand that, but he had 6.5 sacks in the same defensive system that we as Eagles fans didn't really like. So if he can do that in that system, I think he should perform in the same system that Justin Houston played in last year. With the Colts. Or that was Matt Eberflus, but yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting situation there, just because I think the talent for at least this year along the defensive line is it's a really talented line. I really think that combination of Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat is going to be quite good. I saw someone was asking about Brandon Graham's stat line prediction, but if Brandon Graham can stay healthy, I think Brandon Graham's going to be a guy that's going to be over 7 sacks this year. I think he's going to be above 7. Then you got Kerrigan coming in. I mean, Kerrigan's going to be more of a role player, to be quite honest about it. I mean, but I still think Kerrigan can come in and get you 5 sacks coming off the bench. I think it's going to be good, man. I wonder about the long-term future, though, because, all those dudes are contract guys. Sweat, Barnett, Graham, Kerrigan, they're all contract guys. Then you got Teron Jackson, who had a really good rep yesterday. He had a really good – him and Mulata had a really good matchup yesterday on one-on-ones. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. You got Patrick Johnson, who's kind of flirting around between linebacker, like a rush linebacker, or a joker defensive end, a stand-up defensive end type. You got Milton Williams, who's – I told everyone that I thought Milton Williams was more of a 5 technique in the NFL. That's where he started his career in college. It was really out of necessity. He was moved inside as a 3. He had a good rep yesterday. He played pretty well yesterday. I mean, Milton Williams had a really good rep against Dillard. He beat Dillard with a speed move, which, I guess it's not really. Some people were like, hey man, like, holy crap, Dillard just got beat on a speed move by Milton Williams. But Milton Williams has a really quick initial release, so it doesn't shock me that he could gain the leverage on you quickly, especially if you're worried about his power. If you're a guy like Andre Dillard and you're worried this guy's going to bull rush you, and Milton Williams, who has a really, really good release off the line of scrimmage, get you, I can see it. So I mean, it's the younger guys. Can these younger guys produce? You know what I mean? Like, is it Trayvon? No, it's T.Y. McGill. Yeah, T.Y. McGill apparently is having a pretty good camp. So now, the question, I thought Ridgeway was clearly going to be the third guy in that rotation, but T.Y. McGill might steal. He might steal a roster spot here. And that's a shame because, when Ridgeway's been in games, he's been productive. He just hasn't lasted. Keeps getting injured. I heard Hargraves is having a pretty good camp on one-on-ones. He's been destroying people. The defensive line looks good, man. It does. It's just I wonder about the long-term fits. I don't know how many long-term answers we have right now. I think we're going to have to invest quite a bit in the next couple of draft classes along the D-line or in free agency.
Yeah, just in terms of our defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Graham, Kerrigan, and some of these older guys on the D-line, I do not think they'll be here for the future. That's it. But I don't want to rely on I don't want my core piece to consist of Derek Barnett, who's been injury derailed the last couple of years, and Sweat's very good. When he's on the field, he's consistent, but he's also injury prone. So I completely understand where you're coming from when we need to just look at defensive linemen the next couple of years. And we've invested in that. And we always look at the position. Definitely do think we have to keep looking at it. As much as I love the position.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of these guys get on the field against actual competition and see how they play. I want to see their reps. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm really looking forward to. I mean, I just had my payment come out for the NFL Game Pass, so that's where I get all my all 22 film and stuff from. So I'm excited, man, because as soon as it gets released, I'm gonna be all over it, looking at it. Yes. I want to see these reps. Yeah,
definitely. It's looking good so far in training camp, and I love that. D-line's looking good. I want to see more from the guys that are doing good right now. I just want to see more consistency through training camp, and I love what they're doing. But I'm a guy that you have to show me more and more and more and more. Just keep toppling what you're doing and keep getting better. That's exactly what I want to see. And what's up, Uncensored? How are you doing, man?
What's up, Eagles Uncensored? What's good, buddy?
Yeah. But other than the Devontae pick, in the 2021 draft, what was your favorite pick?
Ooh. I really liked the Gainwell pick a lot when that one happened. I was a big fan of the Gainwell pick. I liked Teron Jackson a lot. Teron Jackson's a pick I liked a lot. Jacoby Stevens. These are all safe picks, though, the late round picks. They're guys that's not a lot of stress and strain on them. I had major question marks about the middle part of the draft, man. Both of the players are incredibly talented. They are. But, going to the second round, you look at Landon Dickerson. That's a major injury, concern there. If that guy can stay on the field, he's going to be really good. It was a big gamble. It was a big gamble we took. Milton Williams, I like Milton Williams' athleticism a lot. But like I said, this is a guy that when he did play our offensive lines, when he played the BYUs, when he played the Marshalls, which were top 10 O lines, he got pushed around. He got pushed around a little bit. But when he played competition that was on par with on his schedule, he won. He won those battles. So, the athleticism's there. He's a developmental guy. I had nothing against the player. I was just shocked that we were now at that point past 3 rounds and we still hadn't gone after a corner. We still hadn't signed anyone in free agency. It was like, what is the plan here at corner besides Slay? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And I think, looking at it now, looking at how well McPherson's playing, I think the McPherson selection has turned out to be a really good selection so far. We don't know. He hasn't played in games yet, but it might work out to our advantage where we did draft a corner. That corner turns out to be pretty good. We got Milton Williams, who's a piece that you can build around and develop, who could turn into a pretty athletic and difficult guy to block in the NFL if you can really work with him. Then you got Landon Dickerson, who's a guy that potentially, could be a centerpiece, pun intended, for the offensive line, if he's healthy. You got Gainwell. I like the Gainwell pick. Marlon Tuipulotu.
Big guy.
Nose tackle from USC. Loved his film. Even though it was against the Pac-12, I loved his film, man. He was just beating guys up at the snap. He was absolutely destroying the center's hands. He had this it was a reach and sling move that he was doing, and man, he was beating up these Pac-12 centers with that move. Yeah. It's a shame that he's got a little back issue he's dealing with too, because I really want to see that guy at full health on the field. I want to see what he can do, because I got a feeling, we didn't get the guy we were going for, which we were aiming for one of my guys, an NC State guy, but we ended up getting a pretty good one in the 6th round. I think we got a guy that if it wasn't for the injury concerns, he would have been a far higher draft pick than what he was. That was definitely, in my opinion, a top 100 player.
Yeah. And I love Marlon Tuipulotu. I will say, Hunter from the Philly Insider podcast, he compares him to Anthony Rush. He's like that Rush of the middle. And I love that comparison because, he's a big guy. I watched film on him last year. I watched film on most of the guys we drafted. And Tuipulotu was a guy that just, as soon as he got off the ball snapped, he just went after the center and just destroyed them. And that's something you like from defensive tackles. A nose tackle that can just blitz easily and just thoroughly just destroy the center. And that's something the Eagles need. And Fletcher Cox has been something like that for us.
What's funny about Anthony Rush?
Yeah.
I recruited Anthony Rush back in his high school days. He played out in Cary, North Carolina.
Oh.
And he was a tight end. He was a very athletic man.
Wow.
He was a very athletic kid. It was he was a pretty big recruit coming out of high school, but the reason he didn't end up getting the accolades and didn't go to the Tennessees or the Carolinas or even NC States is because of academics. He had an academic issue. But once he got that under control, we saw, the few times he was with the Eagles, man, he flashed. Anthony Rush did. Like he was pretty good.
Yeah, Rush is someone that, if you look back at, you can compare Tuipulotu and Rush because they're nose tackles that just came up the middle and blitz you. And they got to the running back. And that's something the Eagles have been known for. like the last 3 to 4 years, ever since we won the Super Bowl. Very good rush defense, and you add more bigger guys like nose tackles like Hargrave.
Uh-huh.
You just have standouts at the position. I mean, I love that. You know, what was your favorite signing in free agency for the Eagles? It's the last question.
Favorite signing in free agency for the Eagles? It's a good question. I want to say Anthony Harris because I think Anthony Harris can really. Anthony Harris defensively, Kerryon Johnson offensively. I think for me, Kerryon Johnson can be a very good second back. He's a very, very good pass pro back. He's a really good blocking back. He's got okay hands. He's not the greatest, but he's got decent hands. I think Kerryon's going to play a role, and I think Anthony Harris is the kind of guy that understands the system that's going to want to be installed here. So I just think he's going to be one of those guys that, the defense won't. It just won't operate without him.
Definitely. I think Wilson was a good signing, but looking back at his film, he really wasn't a good rusher. I mean, not rusher, but just in run coverage, he wasn't good. He had good pass coverage, but in run coverage, he really wasn't good. There was times where he missed the tackle on film. I was worried about that. And as much as I love the guy, he's a good pickup. I don't really know how to think of that. Just good pass coverage, a linebacker, but he can't really make the tackles when it comes to running backs. That's something that's concerning to me. But I really like the Anthony Harris pickup too. This is the last and final question before we get out of here. What is your biggest concern going into this season for the Eagles?
There's a lot of concerns. I think it's just that it doesn't click. My biggest concern is that, Jalen Hurts struggles to play on time. Jalen Hurts struggles to, get his feet set right and throw the ball with anticipation and timing, right? That Nick Sirianni turns out to be a better, motivator and talker than he turns out to be an actual coach. Maybe he's a better coordinator than coach. Those things can be in the, Shane Steichen had some heat coming off of him from the Chargers for very conservative play calling at times, although he really helped out Herbert.
Yeah, running the ball a lot.
Yeah. He did take some criticism. I don't know how much of that was Anthony Lynn versus Shane Steichen, but he definitely caught both of those guys caught some flack for that. That's my biggest fear is that, then you look at the corners that, Steven Nelson's been getting beat in camp. I mean, he's held his own a few reps, but he's also got taken a couple times in reps. Now, 7-on-7s, I brush off 7-on-7s. The offense is supposed to win a 7-on-7. But,
definitely.
It does make you a little worried, does. Like, okay, man, come on now. You got to straighten up, make it a little harder for him to catch the ball out here. I do wonder about the secondary, man. I think it's better than people think, but ultimately we won't know until the pads go on. You know what I mean? Till the pads are on and they're tackling to the ground and you can really see these guys playing with intensity, with pads and tackling to the ground, then you'll know, man. Then you'll definitely know, man.
Absolutely. It was fun having you on, man. I really appreciate you for coming on. Your knowledge of the game is ridiculously high. I'm just here sitting here and I just I'm astonished by how much you know of the game. I respect you for coming on and I appreciate you. Go subscribe to him one more time. I put his links in the description, Twitter. But yeah, we're out. Peace, everyone.
Hey, I appreciate y'all. Eagles champ won. I appreciate that, buddy. I think Slay forgot to end the video, by the way, guys.
Forgot to end the live stream. Now I'm going to end it. Yeah.